As promised, Dr. L. Randall Wray is with us. He is a professor of economics at the University of Missouri at Kansas City, senior scholar of the Levy Economics Institute, the author of Mondern Money Theory, the blog neweconomicperspectives.org. Dr. Wray, welcome to the program.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
I'm so happy to have you with us. Could you give us, I want to really dig into modern monetary theory or money theory here. First of all, I've heard it referred to both as money theory and monetary theory. Are they two different things, or is this just two ways to refer to the same thing?
I think it's two different ways of referring to the same thing, with some of us using monetary and some of us using money.
Okay.
I think I probably tend to use money more often.
Sure. Well, if it's the title of your book, I would certainly, I would definitely do that if I were you. For our listeners who are not economists, can you give us a 2-3 minute kind of snapshot summary of what is modern money theory? What is modern about it? What is different in as much as it's a new theory as opposed to old theories?
Yeah. Well, if I wanted to state it as simply as I possibly could, I would say that those of us who follow this argue that a sovereign government is actually nothing like a household. So all of these analogies that, I couldn't run my household the way that the federal government is running its budget, it's just not applicable. Sovereign governments are very different. Now, how did we get this name, modern money or monetary? I think that it all goes back to John Maynard Keynes, in his treatise on money, which was his famous book before the general theory, the one that most people know about. And he just said, look, the kind of monetary system I am describing applies to all monetary systems for the past 4,000 years at least. And so I just sort of took that. Okay, we don't know what happened before that. Maybe the story of Robinson Crusoe and Friday, and they were bartering fish for coconuts, and it was very inconvenient, so they decided to use seashells, and gradually over time it evolved to a gold commodity money. Maybe that applies somewhere, to some universe, to some distant time, very distant time. It does not apply to any monetary economy for the past 4,000 years. This is what Keynes was saying. And so
you're saying the story of where money came from is even wrong.
Right. That's right. The story of where money came from really is not applicable to any monetary system that is modern in Keynes' sense the past 4,000 years. Now, I don't even need to make that case, of course. I think that Keynes was completely right, and in my own books I have looked at all the evidence that we have, going back to Mesopotamia, for example, and I'll tell you what, authorities played a role all the way back. It sure looks like the monetary system was not invented by Robinson Crusoe and Friday. Instead, it was invented by the authorities. In the beginning, the temple authorities, the palace authorities, and then we, evolved the king, and finally democratic government. All the way back, always some form of state authority has always been involved in creating, supporting, protecting, managing our monetary system.
Would it? And the reason for this is so they can take a piece of the action, right?
Well, yes. I mean,
could I give you
yes.
a thumbnail characterization, and you tell me if this makes sense?
Sure.
Whether it was a kingdom or a theocracy or a tribe or whatever it may be, the community as a whole, and whether it was small d democratic or not, the community as a whole had certain things in common. There is a commons of some sort, and that commons had to be supported by all the people who were members of the community. So they had to figure out a way that when people were interacting with each other in ways that could be called economic, that a little bit of that action could be skimmed off the top to pay for the commons. And thus was born money. Does that make sense?
Yes, my shorthand way of stating it is that the monetary system was created and developed and evolved to move resources to the public purpose. Now, it's pretty hard to say that, the crown operated in the public purpose, but clearly that is what we have evolved to in democratic states. It's to serve the public purpose.
Right.
That, from inception, that is why we have a monetary system. Now, the monetary system also serves the private interest too, of course. And there's no reason why we have to say it must be one or it must be the other one, or that they must always be in conflict. Of course, there's a great area of overlap between the public purpose and the private purpose, and what we need the public purpose to accomplish so that the private purpose can accomplish what it wants to accomplish.
So money is really kind of it's a social construct. And ever since 1971. We have had nothing backstopping our money except the value and wealth of our society. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, in fact, I would say ever since Mesopotamia, so for 4,000 years, that has been true. Now, people get all confused about the gold standard.
Right.
You have to remember the gold standard was very short-lived. I'm talking about a 4,000-year period. Gold standard, there's a debate about, exactly what qualifies for a gold standard, how long it lasts, and the arguments run from anything like, well, it lasted for at most 2 decades to it lasted perhaps sort of for a couple hundred years. That is it. That is the whole extent.
Well, didn't the
gold
Romans
standard.
use, though, precious metals for their coins? At least silver.
See, but that's a different matter. Precious metal coins, think of them this way. These are IOUs that happen to be stamped on metal rather than stamped on pieces of paper or today electronic entries on balance
And so
sheets.
they would use a precious metal because they don't oxidize as easily. Is that?
There were probably a number of reasons for using precious metals. One is that their value can never decline all the way to zero. Even if the crown defaults on his IOUs, the value of a precious metal coin is not going to go below the bullion value, or very much below.
Sure.
There's a little bit of a hassle in melting it down and assaying it. But if you go back to Roman law, so you're right that they issued IOUs stamped on gold coins, but in Roman law, coins' value was determined by the nominal value, not by the embodied gold. And this is the typical case, that coins circulate much above their embodied precious metal contents value.
So we've never really had a precious metal standard. Even the Romans,
Yes.
It's just never happened. It's a myth. And
is
so
a myth.
we have just a minute before we got to take about a 30-second break here. But so how do you respond to people who say, since the 70s, the value of the dollar has collapsed? It's all because we went off the gold standard.
Well, it hasn't collapsed. Have we had inflation? Yes, we have. On the gold standard, the typical case was that we would have inflation in good times and deflation in bad times. So people will say, well, over the course of the 19th century, when the gold standard was strongest, we had no inflation. But that is going from measuring prices in 1800, measuring them again in 1900, and you find out that the price level is about the same. But meanwhile, over the course of that century, they had huge inflations and huge deflations. Now, we know that in modern capitalist economies, deflations are absolutely devastating.
Right, deflation's also known as Great Depressions.
That's right. And so, yes, we have cut out the deflations so that the only trend is up.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. We're talking with Dr. L. Randall Wray, Professor of Economics at the University of Missouri at Kansas City, Senior Scholar at the Levy Economics Institute, author of Mondern Money Theory. The blog website is neweconomicperspectives.org. We'll be back with more Dr. Wray in just a moment.